today we have a very special guest on Dear Found Her, and I just told her I've been watching her from afar for a very long time because she got into blogging a little bit before I got into Bump Club, and she's always kind of been on my radar and someone that I've seen around the internet. And now I'm so excited that I have gotten to put a name to a face in person and have had a conversation with her prior to hopping on here. But you probably know her from Instagram or TikTok. But Joy Wilson, who is otherwise known as Joy the Baker, has been online since 2008, which is incredible when you think of how far the internet has come since then. That was before social media was even a thing. She's also a 3-time cookbook author and the editor-in-chief of Joy the Baker magazine and a baking instructor. And she is absolutely delightful, as you will soon see. So I'm so excited to have Joy Wilson here today with us on Dear Found Her. Joy, welcome.
Thank you so much, Lindsay. I'm so happy to be here.
The pleasure is all mine, like seriously. And I am just so excited to share your story because I feel like you offer so much rich history to building a brand that is online but offline, and with your extensions, you have so much going on, and it is so incredible what you've built.
Thank you. I feel like that's extremely generous.
It is not extremely generous. It is the truth. So I would love for you to take us back to 2008 and tell us how you started your business.
Oh my gosh, I can't believe 2008 was 15 years ago. Joy the Baker is the thing that I've done with the most consistency in my entire life. Like, this is the longest I've ever had a job. Like, this is longest I've ever had a relationship. Like, this is it. So it's pretty wild. But 2008 was when I started joythebaker.com. And I don't know if you remember that back then. I feel like an elder on the internet, and that's okay. But people weren't making a living out of posting on a blog. We were like fresh out of posting on our live journals. So it wasn't a career, and it wasn't something that I thought I could turn into a career. But what I thought I could turn into a career at the time was having a wholesale baking business. I had several jobs at that time. I was a baker and I worked in a coffee shop. I was a student. Like, I was just doing all the things. And I thought that my career was going to be as a baker baking for people. And so I set up my website and started to take orders from people. I would make custom cakes. I did a couple wedding cakes. I joke around that I ruined a couple weddings because I am not a wedding cake maker. Like, turns out that's not me. And I would sell my baked goods to coffee shops around Los Angeles as well. All of this was just like out of my home kitchen. So that's really how Joy the Baker started. I was Joy and I was trying to be a baker. And I quickly realized that, like, the margins on those things that I was doing, the cakes and the wholesale baking, was not adding up for me. It just wasn't making sense. So I started working in another bakery. I had a couple jobs, and I started just posting the recipes that I was making in the bakery on this blog. I looked up to my now friend Deb from Smitten Kitchen. She started her blog in 2006. And I was like, I don't know, there's this lady in New York City who has like one light in her kitchen, and she's putting recipes on the internet, and I want to try them. I have recipes, like, I'll just try putting them on the internet. And I wasn't alone in that. People started doing it. And after many years, it started to become a thing that we did, and a thing that is known. So that's how Joy the Baker started.
When did you start to monetize Joy the Baker? Like, when was it like, okay, this is a business beside the baking aspect of it? You know what I mean? I mean, you're baking, or maybe, you're working in a bakery, you're selling cakes wholesale, whatever that part of your business is. But when did the online portion, when were you like, I'm onto something and I can actually make money here?
Yeah, I remember we used to hem and haw a lot about whether or not we were going to monetize our content online. Like, there was a time in 2010, 2011 where some people were doing it and it was a little controversial, and I was not doing it. I wasn't doing it. I was like, I don't want ads on my website. But things change, and things changed, I don't know, quickly and slowly at the same time. In 2012, I realized I was putting so much effort into my into my work online that I needed to be monetized for. I needed to be paid for it somehow. And so I started monetizing the website in 2012, I believe. So 4 years after I started it, I still had a job. I still had two jobs working in food service, and I was making just a tiny amount of money. I remember like getting a check for $81 from my site and being like, cool, that's like a free $81. Of course, it's not free. I like paid for so many groceries to create the content, but that's, yeah, I started monetizing in 2012.
Back in the day, 28 to 2012, how did you get the word out about your blog when there was really no social media? I mean, social media was just a very different landscape. Like Facebook was a little bit around, we were coming off of that like .edu, like you had to be in education or a student to be on Facebook. There was Twitter, obviously, but it's not like it was today. It's not
Yeah.
like it is today. That's for sure.
In some ways, getting the word out is the same today as it was back then. And it is about building a community. It really is. It has to genuinely be about caring about other people and creating a community around the thing that you care about. And so I would find different communities of baking people between 2008 and 2012. And we back then, because we didn't have Instagram or Facebook to converse on, it was all in the comment section. The comment section of my old posts, which are still up there, have hundreds to thousands of comments, because that's where we created community. That's where we would connect and ask questions and talk about our experiences. It was all in the comment section. And, right now that comment section is just dispersed more throughout the internet. It's on Instagram, it's on Facebook, it's on TikTok, it's Twitter, it's everywhere. But it all is essentially the comment section of my website. So that's how I got the word out, was just like trying to build a community, joining other people's communities, commenting on other people's work genuinely. And that's how it grew.
And now, and I want to kind of piggyback off of what you just said, because now it's so important to do those things, but on social media. And you said something just now, you said, and I would comment on other people's work. I actually just this week posted something about how important it is to be social on social media. And, you are living proof of this, because you were social on your own media before you had to be social on social media, but you can't just like post and run and expect that people are going to come to you. And I shared this whole thing this week about how, like, if someone's going to feature you and share you and talk about you, like, you should engage with them and share it too and say thank you. And like, right. And there's all these, it's not rocket science, but when you do those things, that's when you see your community grow. And so I'm assuming your community has just, I know it has, but it's exploded because of Instagram and TikTok and Facebook and Twitter. And I mean, it put it on a whole new playing field.
Yeah, it really did. It really did. It also spread those people out a lot more. But yeah, you can't just be output of your own work, I've found. And sometimes I get not, like sometimes I've had years where I've gotten very tunnel vision about like must output, like must put out work. And when those years have felt either like where I've felt burnout in those years, or where I felt like I've plateaued or stalled, it was because I wasn't putting the energy into connecting with my community. I was putting like energy out, but I wasn't like connecting with the people that I was putting it out to. And yeah, I've noticed that I like will reach a plateau if that's the energy I'm giving.
And it's interesting. You and I talked before we hopped on just about how long the two of us have been kind of in this world of digital media and in digital promotion. And I think that, when you think about what you just said and the conversation, the back and forth that you and I just had, you said something also. You said it's really not that much different, now than it was before. And I think that that is so important to hammer home, especially to new entrepreneurs and younger entrepreneurs, that it really is that back to basics engagement and community, not going viral.
Right. Gosh, everyone wants to go viral, but what do you have for people after you've gone viral? Like, what do you have to offer? And maybe there is something that you have to offer, but you have to like foster that foster that genuine care for other people so that you have something to fall back on, or you have something to offer when you do go viral, or, like whatever that is. I'm just so,
100%. And I appreciate you saying that because I think a lot of people don't realize how important that is.
yeah. Like what's the foundation, what's the
And
foundation?
having a foundation is key to any business,
Yeah.
right? Like, I want to ask you one more thing about social media. I have a million questions for you, but how do you feel about the fact that your comment sections are now owned by other companies?
Hmm.
I mean, you just said my comments are on my website. They've, from back in the day, they're still there. They're still on the post. And at that time, you owned those comments and that
Mhm.
content. And now when you are putting the content on other platforms, you don't own that anymore.
Yeah.
So one, how do you feel about it? And two, how do you harness those communities so that they do become something that you own?
Gosh, I that's a good question. I don't know if I've ever felt like I own my community. I've never had that feeling. I feel like I own my work, but the idea that that kind of community is now spread out, or like the comments are owned by other companies, I don't know. I feel like I've been in the game so long and I've seen so much change in the game that I always expect there to be some like huge shifts. And what what stays true is my work, the quality of my work, the creativity of my work, and my ability to connect with people. And so like that's my constant. And where things go, where people find me is always going to change and ebb and flow. And like that's the stuff you have to just go with.
When things do shift, and when things do shift in a huge way, which we've all seen it happen, especially when, one of the platforms makes a big change, how do you adjust?
It's hard. It's hard. It's hard. It takes time. It takes time, I feel like, to recalibrate your mind to the shift. Um, it also takes time to like, I've noticed recently that I've had to like kind of recalibrate my work, like recalibrate the videos I create, not recalibrate the recipes I make or the quality, but people want to see something different now with the rise of TikTok, and what works on Instagram doesn't work on TikTok. So you have to like stay true to yourself and your work, but find the flexibility in it. And I don't know, as I get older and a little bit more entrenched in the work that I do and have done, it's harder to make those shifts. But it's exciting too. Like there's so much different possibility in there, and like different ways to be creative, different ways to explore. I was really resistant to TikTok and creating there, very resistant to it. And that I was thinking about it this morning. It was to my detriment. It was just me being stuck in my own mud about it. Like I really got in my own way about it. And now I'm on there and I'm just having fun. I don't care. The
You
thing is,
know,
like, you don't care.
I think that a lot of people listening, including myself, because I am so hesitant too with TikTok, feel the way that you felt, like feel that like resistance, especially people who are, you and I are the same age, who are our age and older, are like, oh my God, one more platform. Like, what do I, and are very resistant. How do you create differently? What are some tips that you could offer to our community for creating differently on TikTok in a way that would resonate with the people who are there?
Yeah, I feel like you have to find a way to resonate with the people that are there, but also be true to yourself. So I am not on TikTok trying to go viral. That's just like never been my bag. I probably wouldn't know how to do it if I tried. Like it just feels disingenuous to me. But what I can offer is cooking videos. Love to do it, love to make them. On TikTok, I've been just playing around. You just have to go there and just throw something at the wall and see if it sticks and see if it feels good to you, if it feels authentic to you. So I've been making more casual cooking videos there. Some are great, some don't perform well, but they all feel good to me. They all feel like something that I'm proud, happy to put out in the world. And Yeah, that's how I'm approaching it. And I'm seeing steady growth. The thing that is motivating to me is that I'm seeing steady growth in it, steady growth in the numbers, but also steady growth in the community of people that I'm connecting with there. And it is the growth platform right now. Like Instagram used to be the growth platform. It is no longer that unless you are like adhering to their very specific rules, which are exhausting. So TikTok is the place of growth, and it's scary. It's kind of like a juggernaut, but it's also exciting. It's exciting to see some steady movement.
Are you putting your videos on YouTube Shorts as well?
I have put some video on YouTube Shorts. Everything is everything. Like everything requires a different finesse, and I create all my own videos myself. I don't have a giant team of people, and I don't have the finesse for all of it. So while I do put some of my videos on YouTube Shorts, I haven't seen a lot of growth there because I don't think I have the special YouTube sparkle fingers. And that's okay. I'm fine with that. I'm fine with that.
You mentioned your team, and we're going to get into that in a minute. But before we do, I want to paint a picture for our community as to what you do outside of social media, what you do offline, because you have extended your brand in a way that I think so many content creators and so many people who live in the digital space would die to create their brand in the way that you have offline. So tell us a little bit about these brand extensions and the partnerships that you have that have brought Joy the Baker to life off the internet.
Yeah. It has been important to me to take Joy the Baker off the internet and make it a tangible thing. That's why I'm proud of the 3 cookbooks I've written. In 2020, I started writing a biannual magazine that was sold in grocery stores. I was editor-in-chief of that. And in 2016, I bought a house in New Orleans, like a live-in workspace that I transformed into something I called the Bake House, which is where I would hold monthly classes around this big kitchen island and my double shotgun in New Orleans. That was a way to take my online world into like a real world experience. That was very popular. I also have a line of baking mixes with Williams-Sonoma and a jewelry collaboration with Delicacies Jewelry.
We're not going to go into each and every partnership, but I'd like to maybe explore one of them and just maybe give some insight as to how that came about and what the steps were to take to make that happen. Because, it's one thing to say like, oh, I have this line, or, oh, I wrote this cookbook, but there's so much that goes into all of that. And you and I both know that. So like, where would someone start that wants to take their brand offline?
Well, it's hard to know. It's hard. I don't think there's one answer for everybody, but I just am always working from my gut, which maybe is not a helpful answer to people, but
No, I think it's a good answer.
Okay.
I do. I think it's
gut.
a good answer because, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but
No.
I think it's a good answer. And that I think about how I did things at Bump Club. And oftentimes, I went with my gut too. And is this a good partnership? And does this work for the community? And is this something that I feel like will resonate with them? Versus after I was sold, everything started with a P&L sheet and everything started with the budget. And the sparkle of what we were bringing the community was dulled because of that.
Yeah.
And so I do think that going off your gut and then figuring it out is okay. And especially if you're your brand.
Yeah, right. I feel like it has to be okay. It also requires a lot of time and patience because not every most big gut decisions or big creative flashes then take several months, if not years, to make a reality.
Did Williams-Sonoma approach you, or did you go and approach them?
Yeah, Williams-Sonoma approached me in 2015. In 2015, okay. I went out to their California, San Francisco offices. We had a meeting. We had like a collaborative meeting, dreamscape, the whole deal. We were moving forward. Something happened. There was a riff. Something happened with one of the other, I don't know, something happened. And that deal fell away very quickly. And I was so bummed. I was like, man, that really felt right. That felt like a right thing, but like, hey, like, how did that go away so fast? And now it's gone. And like, weird. That's disappointing. But we move on, like we keep trucking. No, I didn't have any bad feelings. I don't know, just something weird happened. And in 2020, I was at right before the pandemic in March 2020. I was at the Charleston Food and Wine Festival, and I was doing a demo on the Williams-Sonoma main stage with Al Roker, who I refer to as my father now. And we did a cooking demo together on the Williams-Sonoma stage. I was like, look at all this amazing Williams-Sonoma stuff. And I had a feeling that there were Williams-Sonoma people upon the crowd, and there were. My friend Kristen was there, my now friend Kristen and Jean, big folks at Williams-Sonoma came up to me afterwards, and they were like, remember that collaboration we were supposed to do? Like, let's talk about that again. I was like, wow. Like, I knew it felt right then.
But I want to but I also want to point out that right place, right time, right?
Yeah.
Like it wasn't maybe right in 2015. And also how smart you were to think about that and be strategic about your approach when you were on that stage.
Yeah.
It's like that was intentional, but it was not forceful.
Right. It's like being ready, just staying ready, not pushing anything, but just staying ready for when you see the opportunity to just nudge it a little bit farther down the road. So I was reconnected with the Williams-Sonoma people. And over that year of 2020, we developed this line of cake mixes and brought them to market in May of 2021, which is an absolute dream. But if I think about it, it was like 6 years in the making. And yeah. And I love working with them. I feel like they're an elevated brand, that their brand elevates mine. And we have a great creative collaboration. And it did happen at the right time. I don't think I was ready for that sort of thing in 2015. I probably wouldn't really have known what to do with it. And so it was right to go away, even though it was so disappointing at the time. And I never could have imagined that it would come around the way that it did. But some things, it just takes time to reveal some things.
I appreciate you sharing the downfall of that as well, because I think, but I think a lot of people are not transparent, and like, they get to a point where they're like, oh, I have this partnership, and they don't necessarily reveal that it took a while, or things didn't go as planned, or things fell apart. And I think those are very important, one, indicators of success, and two, it's very important to be transparent, to let people know that success doesn't happen overnight.
No, it certainly doesn't. But I think that it all happens in the right time. I've found that the success happens as it should, maybe not as quickly as you want it to, but it happens at the right time. It has happened at the right time for me.
And then with your cookbooks, was that something that you wanted to do, or similarly, did someone approach you to do it?
I wanted to write a cookbook. Both things are true. I wanted to write a cookbook. It was early days. My first cookbook came out in 2012. And so I started working on it in like late 2010 or 2011. And I was approached by a book agent. I didn't even know what a book agent was at the time. I was like, I had no idea. That's how naive I was. And so I didn't respond to her email for 3 months. And then I was like, to be honest, I was going through a little cash crunch, meaning I was broke. And I was like, I've got to hustle up some money. How am I going to do that? I was living with roommates in downtown Los Angeles. I was like, this is not it. This is not cute. Where am I going to find some money that I can work for? And so I dug up that email and was like, hey, is this real? Because I'd like to write a cookbook. And then I spent 3 months writing a proposal, put it together. We sold it together. And that's how I got my first book deal. So in some ways I was approached, but in other ways I was like, let me go get this.
But at the same time, you knew that you needed money. And so you were like, how can I use my expertise and what I do best to get it?
Yeah.
And I think that's often a question that entrepreneurs, one, struggle with, and two, they ask themselves, but they don't really know where to find the answer. And oftentimes it's right in front of them. It's just taking the step back to be like, oh, this is what I do, and this is what I can offer the world. How do I get from point A to point B? And you did that.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that probably was very pivotal for you in that moment of being in a cash crunch and not having money. But then all of a sudden you had a book, and then that book gives you content to talk about, content to sell, and it also builds your trust and builds your credibility. There's so many things that come from that book, which is
Yes.
just so amazing that you seized that opportunity.
That was a big step. Getting that book deal and writing that first book was like, some steps in your business and building your brand are smaller steps, small steps that you make every day. But selling this first cookbook was one of my big steps.
When you look at your business holistically now, what would you say is the area where you concentrate on most in terms of building revenue?
Oh, I really still concentrate on creating quality content for people. That's the base of everything. So the blog, joythebaker.com, still gets a majority of my attention. That's the foundation. And so I put a lot of resources into that. I have a lot of like tech support behind that. I have an editor who helps me with that. I have a few contributors. I have a photographer. Like, it is the foundation. And everything drives to that. So it still has all the focus, as silly as that is. I remember a couple years ago, maybe like 2017, 2018, people were like, blogs are nothing. Like, nobody cares about blogs anymore. You should just start a blog on Instagram. I said, no, baby. And it's true, because that's what I want to own. I don't care about owning the community. I need to own my work, my content. And so, yeah,
Well, I love that you just, I mean, it was almost like I paid you to write that endorsement, because that's what you just said is what I teach all the time. And it's that you have to have a foundation, and that your content is everything, and everything comes off of your content. That is just how marketing works. That's how a successful brand markets themselves, is building the foundation from the ground up through the content.
Yeah.
And that's what you've done. And you have a ton of history behind you. So
Yeah.
you talked about your tech team, and you've mentioned your team here and there. What does your team look like now? You also mentioned it's pretty lean still.
It is lean. It is lean. I keep it lean because I don't know, it's such an unpredictable world. I really want my employees to be able to count on me. So I do keep it pretty lean, but I have a tech team who does all the back end of Joy the Baker and keeps that maintained. It is like, when you have a 15-year-old site, it's like a big beast to load.
Yeah.
It's a heavy lift. There's just so much there. And I have an editor for the website. I have 2 contributors. I have like a publicist. I have a book agent. I have a manager who helps me get branded deals. There are layers of people who support me in my work and business.
But I want to point out that you don't do it alone.
No, I do not.
And that's why I asked you that question, because, and are any of those people, and I think this is a really important question for entrepreneurs who are listening, are they employees or are they contractors?
I did have one employee who was a photographer. No, I am currently my only employee. So they're all contractors. Yeah, they're all contractors right now.
And I'm so glad I asked that, because I also think it's so important to share that, and for people to be able to look at you. You are someone who has built a huge brand. You have a huge following. You have 1 million extensions, and you don't have a huge team employed by you. And a lot of entrepreneurs often think that they need to have employees and they need to pay people 6 figures in order to make their business run. And that is not the case. And you are a prime example of that.
Oh gosh, 6 figures. No, y'all. I mean, if I had it, I'm happy to share, but I keep it all pretty lean. And
But do you know what I mean? Like, I have so many people who say to me, oh, like, I really want a CMO, or I want to hire like a, chief financial officer, but I don't have the salary to pay them. Most business owners don't.
Yeah.
But there are ways to be creative and have fractional people and contractors to support you in those endeavors so that you can run your company. And that's what I want to point out here, because I think someone would, from the outside looking in, look at everything that you've built and think you have this giant team. And I think it's so important to point out that you don't. And that's okay. And you have a great business.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
So I want to wrap up with you on the last question I ask everyone. And that is, what is 3 tips that you would share with someone who's just getting started?
I can say I can speak from my experience as someone who's been on the internet for 15 years. Be consistent. If you're going to be on the internet and you have a thing to offer, be consistent about offering it to people. I think that's been a huge part of Joy the Baker's success, is that I've just been relentlessly sharing recipes for years and years and years, and people can count on that. I would say take time out of every day to genuinely connect with your community. And it might feel like a waste of time, but it's everything. They are everything to you. Like, I will spend at least an hour in the morning responding to DMs. Like, what? After about 45 minutes, I'm like, what am I doing? But it is so important. It's so important for me to connect with my audience and, like,
I couldn't agree more.
Be genuine about it, not just like heart their comment. They took time to comment to you. So, like, know them, get to know them, because they are your supporters. They're the ones who will buy something from you if you ask them.
Yep.
And then the third thing I would say is, do not sacrifice the quality of your offerings to people. Don't, like, it's just like, out of respect for the community you've built, don't just do something to make some quick money, because people can feel that and it feels gross. So I feel like, don't sacrifice quality in the like online work that you present to people, in the product that you are offering people. I think if you can build trust in that way with the community that you've fostered, you've got it. Like, that's the ticket.
Joy Wilson, Joy the Baker, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your wisdom here. Not only do we all have something to learn from you in the kitchen, but you have really shared so much to think about in terms of building a business and building a business on your own brand. So thank you so much for your time. I so appreciate it.
Oh my gosh, I hope it's been helpful, and I've really enjoyed chatting with you. Thanks for having me.
Of course.